Ichiba Mikey today we're talking about the Titanic conspiracy. Like, it's been crazy. Like, I tell the story of Jack and Rose and all that shit. Like, every time they actually release a movie promoting some kind of like tragic incidents, the chances are, what are the incidents that actually happen surrounding their tragedy or particular tragedy itself are not true. That's the observation I actually made in like by analyzing different like movies made for different tragic incidents. So let's just look into the Titanic conspiracy and see what's up.
On the night of April 14, 1912, the unsinkable RMS Titanic struck an iceberg and vanished beneath the icy waters of the North Atlantic. Over 1,500 lives lost. A tragedy that has haunted history for more than a century. But what if I told you the ship that went down that night might not have been the Titanic at all? What if the sinking wasn't just an accident, but a calculated move involving some of the most powerful men in the world? In this video, we'll uncover the hidden connections between the Titanic's sinking, her damaged sister ship, the Olympic, and the financial ambitions of one of history's
Yeah, I heard about the Olympic Six conspiracy. Like, they actually switched. Like, that's crazy. That's not like I don't believe that. Like, that's not even evidence to actually believe that. But let's just like watch over the video.
wealthiest men. Stay with us, because by the end of this, you might never look at the Titanic story the same way again. The early 1900s was the age of industrial giants. Steamships are the pride of nations. The bigger, the faster, the more luxurious, the better. The White Star Line, one of the most prestigious shipping companies in the world, wanted to dominate the transatlantic passenger market. So the construction of the Titanic began in Belfast, Ireland in March 1909. She was one of 3 Olympic-class ocean liners designed to dominate the transatlantic passenger trade: the RMS Olympic, the RMS Titanic, and the RMS Britannic. Built by Harland and Wolff for the White Star Line, these ships represented the pinnacle of Edwardian luxury. 9 decks, lavish interiors, grand staircases, the finest ship ever built. The press called it unsinkable. But behind the glamour, there was a man who
Every time someone a press calls it, or every time like someone like brand that shit like unsinkable, you know the worst is gonna actually happen.
controlled it all. American financier John Pierpont Morgan. J.P. Morgan wasn't just rich, he was a titan of banking, steel, and
Like, I never knew JP Morgan was actually part of the story. Like, I thought it was Jack and Rose and fucking shit. Like, I never thought like JP Morgan was involved in this shit world. Like, crazy.
railroads. And through his International Mercantile Marine Company, he owned the White Star Line. On April 10, 1912, Titanic set sail from Southampton to New York. She carried the era's elite, industrialists, millionaires, dignitaries, alongside emigrants in third class, seeking new lives in America. For 4 days, the voyage was smooth. But on the night of April 14th at 11:40 p.m., Titanic struck an iceberg in the North Atlantic. The collision tore open her hull below the waterline. Within 2 hours and 40 minutes, the ship broke apart and sank. Only 705 people survived. Over 1,500 died, making it one of the deadliest peacetime maritime disasters in history. The aftermath was immediate. Inquiries in both the UK and the US concluded that excessive speed in icy waters, combined with insufficient lifeboats, caused the massive loss of life. But behind the Titanic stood powerful men with powerful interests. First, John Pierpont Morgan, financier, banker, and titan of American industry. Then there was Joseph Bruce Ismay, chairman of the White Star Line. Ismay would be heavily criticized after the sinking, both for the lack of lifeboats and for saving himself while so many perished. Lord William Peary, chairman of Harland and Wolff, oversaw the design and construction of Titanic and her sister ships. And finally, the passengers. Among them, 3 of America's wealthiest men: Benjamin Guggenheim, heir to a mining fortune; Isidor Straus, co-owner of Macy's department store; John Jacob
I have the conspiracy to start the guys who actually like oppose the Federal Reserve. I don't know if that's actually true or not. Like, so the Titanic was an operation to get rid of these guys, but like I'm not sure. Like, I'm going full in on that conspiracy, but also like it is like not like there's such thing as fateful coincidences.
Astor IV, one of the richest men in the world. All three were known opponents of the creation of the U.S. Federal Reserve, a system that J.P. Morgan strongly supported and would help bring into being in 1913. By a strange twist of fate, all three perished on the Titanic. However, J.P. Morgan was nowhere near the ship. J.P. Morgan had booked a luxurious private suite on the Titanic. He was supposed to sail with the ship's maiden voyage, but days before departure, he suddenly canceled, citing illness. Instead, he stayed.
Yeah, what's up with that, bro? Canceling on the last minute on illness. Maybe it's like some kind of divine fortune, but also like, come on, bro. Like, the course of history would have changed if there's actually three would have survived. Maybe.
In France, enjoying his art collection. Now here's where it gets strange. The Titanic wasn't the only massive ship owned by White Star Line. She had a sister, the RMS Olympic. They looked almost identical, so much so that crew members often confused the two. But the Olympic had a problem. In September 1911, months before Titanic's launch, Olympic collided with a British warship, the HMS Hawke. The crash left her with a twisted keel and serious structural damage. The repairs were costly, and insurance wouldn't cover it fully because investigators blamed the Olympic for the collision. The plan was simple. The newly disguised Olympic, now called Titanic, would be deliberately sunk on her maiden voyage, allowing White Star Line to collect a massive insurance payout. But here's what raises eyebrows. Many of the richest men in America were invited on this maiden voyage. Some boarded, some didn't. J.P. Morgan, canceled. Henry Clay Frick, canceled. George W. Vanderbilt, canceled. But those who opposed Morgan's banking ambitions, like Guggenheim, Straus, and Astor, boarded. All three perished. And 1 year later, the Federal Reserve Act passed, paving the way for a central.
Yo, like that's crazy. You actually like learn about the Titanic movie. That's about. I thought all shit's about Jack and Rose and fucking Lowe and fucking shit. Like, the woman actually survived. Like, I don't know. There's some kind of like a deep conspiracy going around here. Like,
banking system Morgan supported. Was it a coincidence or part of a plan? Nobody knows. Before Titanic even left port, odd things happened. Crew members were swapped out at the last minute. Key safety equipment like binoculars for the lookout was reportedly missing. Despite iceberg
yo, what's up with that?
warnings from nearby ships, Titanic sailed at near top speed. Some survivors claim they heard explosions deep within the ship before the iceberg strike, as if something had already been damaged. Even if the Olympic switch theory seems far-fetched, there are details from the sinking itself that raise questions. First, the speed. Titanic was traveling at nearly full steam despite multiple iceberg warnings from other ships. Why risk it? Second, the lifeboats. Titanic carried only 20 lifeboats, enough for barely half of those on board. Regulations at the time required far fewer. But why not exceed the minimum, especially on a ship carrying the world's elite? Third, the evacuation. Some lifeboats were launched half-empty, while others were delayed. Crew members reportedly seemed confused about the severity of the situation, as if they weren't expecting a sudden disaster. Finally, the Californian, a ship belonging to another company under Morgan's IMM, was allegedly stationed nearby, supposedly to rescue passengers, but for reasons still debated.
Yo, it's just red flag after red flag, bro. Like,
It did not arrive in time. In the wake of the tragedy, White Star Line faced public outrage, but financially the picture was more complex. The insurance payout for Titanic was enormous, around $12 million in 1912 currency, worth hundreds of millions today. This eased the blow of the loss and allowed White Star Line to continue operations. Harland and Wolff, the shipbuilder, retained major contracts. J.P. Morgan's control over the shipping industry remained intact. His broader financial goals, including the creation of the Federal Reserve.
say what you want about JP Morgan. I don't know how evil and shit is, but this man's actually a genius, and like, the amount of money he actually like accumulated throughout his lifetime, it is preposterous. You had to be a genius to be at that level whatsoever.
Advanced without the opposition of men who had perished in the disaster. And perhaps most tellingly, the ship known as Olympic continued to.
And the Federal Reserve system was also smart. Like, you can create infinite money based on depth. Like, that's That's some kind of like a broken machine, like that actually works.
Serve until 1935, with no catastrophic incidents after her 1911 collision. Not everyone is convinced.
But the only one who's on the far end of the stick, it's the people, the poor people that suffer due to inflation of things.
Many historians dismiss the Titanic conspiracy theory as speculation without solid evidence. The differences between Titanic and Olympic, while subtle, were real and would have been difficult to disguise completely. Photographs taken during Titanic's construction and maiden voyage match her known specifications. Survivor testimony from the sinking aligns with the official account. No one reported evidence of premeditation. And the insurance payout, while large, did not outweigh the losses from the disaster, especially considering the damage to White Star Line's reputation. To skeptics, the theory rests too heavily on coincidence and hindsight, weaving unrelated facts into a dramatic but implausible narrative. Over a century later, the Titanic still lies.
Yeah, I don't agree with the Olympic switch theory, but like, I very highly doubt, it is some kind of a coincidence that three people who, oppose the Federal Reserve, like, met their demise and aboard the Titanic. Like, that just sounds like, you know, that sounds something fishy going on here. Like, let's just be brutally honest.
In darkness, 2 miles beneath the waves. Her story has inspired books, films, and endless debate. Was she the victim of fate, hubris, and human error? Or was she the centerpiece of a calculated act for profit and power? The evidence, as with many
The whole shit was actually fucking fake and shit. Like, is Zack and Rose even fucking real? Like, is that also fake? The whole fucking relationship and fucking shit? Was that also fake?
historical mysteries, is open to interpretation. The facts can be arranged into 2 very different pictures, one of tragedy and one of conspiracy. But one truth is undeniable. In history, as in the ocean, much lies hidden beneath the surface. The Titanic's legacy is not just about how she sank, but about the questions that will never fully sink with her. Thank you for watching.
Yeah, that's about it. Like, fuck Jack and Rose. Fuck that shit. And this whole shit was a fucking, like, you know, assassination attempt. Like, but it's just still speculation and theory. Like, who fucking knows actually what happened?